Committee on Oversight and Government Reform will come to order, and without objection, the Chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. Appreciate you being here on this important topic, transparency at the TSA. Today, the committee will explore the lack of transparency at the Transportation Security Administration. We will hear testimony from the Office of Special Counsel, often known as the OSC, and the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General about problems they're having with the TSA. Congress created the Office of Special Counsel to investigate and prosecute violations of prohibited personnel practices, especially whistleblowing. In order for the OSC to complete its mission, agencies are required to produce complete and unredacted documents to the Office of Special Counsel. Unfortunately, the TSA is not fulfilling their legal obligation to produce documents, frustrating OSC's investigative efforts. And I can tell you with a passion on both sides of this aisle, it is not acceptable to withhold information. It is something we have both committed to on both sides of the aisle to help protect and ensure that whistleblowers are protected. You have a right in this government as a government employee to blow the whistle. But when the TSA withholds documents and does not allow the OSC to do its job, that's wholly unacceptable. Former TSA Administrator Peter Neffinger testified before the committee last May that the TSA would base its response to allegations of whistleblower retaliation on OSC's findings. But now TSA is withholding the documents OSC needs to complete its investigation. So on one hand, you have the TSA Administrator saying, oh, we're going to base our conclusions on the findings of OSC, but the TSA won't give all the information to the OSC. Today, I do not want to hear about how voluminous the documents are. I don't want to hear about how many you've given them. There is but one metric that is important to me, and that is the percentage. If you dare go to the place to tell us about how many documents you've turned over, every time you do so, we will ask you what percentage of the documents did you actually turn over. TSA is one of the agencies in most need of the OSC's work. Since 2012, the OSC received approximately 243 cases from TSA employees alleging retaliation for blowing the whistle. A lot happens, very few blow the whistle, but when they blow the whistle, to have 243 people say that there was retaliation is a number that is a flashing red light and scares us. The committee is constantly hearing how complaints from TSA employees about how the agency is a hostile work environment for whistleblowers. It has been almost a year since our last hearing on the mismanagement at the agency. It's disheartening that we find ourselves here again. It's frustrating and it shouldn't happen. TSA selectively withholds information from OSC by asserting a common law attorney-client privilege that does not apply to interagency disputes. TSA's chief counsel, Francine Kerner, the agency's chief counsel since the agency's inception more than 15 years ago, could not identify the client holding the privilege. When pressed, Kerner informed the staff that, quote, TSA has no legal obligation to turn over documents to the OSC, end quote. Kerner's inability as chief counsel to articulate who she represents and her withholding of information shows a fundamental misunderstanding and antagonism towards the OSC's function. Interestingly, the TSA later sent the committee a letter stating, quote, TSA recognizes its legal obligation to provide documents to the OSC and does so regularly, end quote. In fact, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter that letter into the record. It was sent to us on March 4th without objection, so ordered. It was sent to us March 1st, 2017. It's not about doing it regularly, it's about doing it always. And that is something that drives us here today. The OSC gets to see all of it, 100% of it, not a portion of it, not some of it, not just the parts you want them to see. The OSC gets to see all of it. That means 100%. Furthermore, it should not take a congressional hearing for the TSA to acknowledge an existing legal obligation. Similar to the agency's non-cooperation with the OSC, the committee has long criticized the agency's use of sensitive security information, an SSI designation to withhold information. In 2014, the committee issued a bipartisan report, finding that the agency inconsistently and improperly designated certain information as SSI simply to prevent embarrassing information from being made public. But these problems persist. According to the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General, quote, TSA is abusing its stewardship of the SSI program. None of these redactions will make us safer and simply highlight the inconsistent and arbitrary nature of decisions that TSA cannot be trusted to administer the program in a reasonable manner, end quote. That's about as damning as it gets. That is as direct as it can possibly be. In a recent transcribed interview with the committee, former TSA Deputy Administrator Mark Hatfield told the committee, and I quote, "You could mark a Chinese carryout menu SSI," end quote. Talk about an abuse of the system. A Chinese menu, that was his example. The issue with transparency at TSA tend to have one thing in common, and that's Francine Kerner, the Office of Chief Counsel. She seems to be the conduit and the person that we continually bump into. Kerner has checkered history and has a duty to share information. As a lawyer for the Treasury Department in the early 1990s, she was the subject of an investigation for improperly disclosing confidential information to the White House. Now she's advocating for the TSA to withhold information on alleged whistleblower retaliation from the agency charged to investigate it. There's something fundamentally, totally wrong and backwards about that. Committee will not tolerate these impediments, especially when it comes to protecting whistleblowers and ensuring transparency. The acting administrator is here today. We're requesting today you right this wrong and immediately turn over all information withheld from the OSC and put an end to the practice. We're going to be a very short timeline to do so, and we will follow up. So I'll recognize the ranking member, Mr. Cummings.
We will make America great again.